Hello friends and welcome to Goblin Talks and happy Thanksgiving to you all. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday. I know you're all out with your families, so maybe you're watching it on Friday, but anyways, I hope you have or will have or have had or whatever you're at. I hope that Thanksgiving went or goes well for you. Today I want to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving and about what cause Thanksgiving, I guess, why we celebrate it. I think it's an important topic for us to think about right now. It's very present in the world. Thanksgiving is the result of a bunch of immigrants being welcomed by native populations. And at least that's the way the story goes. Whether the story is true or not, you'd have to go a bit deep into the history and ask some questions there, but at least we can say that the basic principle of it is that it's a story about immigrants that are welcomed by peoples. I think this is a really present thought for a lot of people right now as we look at what's going on in the world around us. We have the United States saying, in some cases, or in some states' cases, or in some people's cases, that immigrants should not be welcomed into this area due to safety reasons. And I think that's a bit hypocritical of us as far as safety concerns. When we were welcomed, we weren't particularly safe. So, there's a thing there. Everybody wants to be safe, and I appreciate that argument. But I think we need to understand what the real risks are of allowing immigrants to come to our country. And particularly when we talk about refugees. We see a lot of refugees wanting to come to the United States from places like Syria, and we see a lot of states saying that we don't want them here because we're afraid of the terrorists. I think you can see a lot of arguments against that. Particularly, you can look at things like the Japanese internment that occurred with World War II and say, well, that was probably a mistake, and history seems to certainly play out that that was a mistake, so maybe we don't want to repeat that decision, but a lot of people seem to be trying to go for that again. But I won't go too far into that because I really think it comes down to one thing, and that is that I don't think there's ever a negative to allowing immigrants or refugees in particular into our country. Now, we could talk about a safety risk, and there maybe is a safety risk, I guess, but we don't have any evidence that that's actually true. Most people trying to come to the United States as refugees are, actually refugees, not terrorists hiding in refugee clothing. Turns out there's a lot of different ways to get people into this country, and refugees probably not actually the easiest one in most cases. So this seems like a weird route to go, but again, I digress. When we look at an economy and we look at the way economies work, I think we have this inclination, and we've been sort of conditioned into saying if we let the people into our country, they'll take our gerbs. And there's been tons of satire done about that exact topic, but I think it's important to recognize that that's not really a thing. That doesn't really exist. It's not real. And you could say, well, we have a finite number of jobs, and if there's more people, then there's less jobs, except for as we get more people, then we need more people to do jobs. So it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy that we'll have the jobs that we need for people. So I think that argument's kind of non-existent. The safety argument, again, we don't have evidence against safety. So what I'm getting at is I don't think we really have a good argument against allowing refugees in particular, and even immigrants, into our country. I think it actually benefits all of us. If you look at the culture of America, and this is why I have my juggling balls here, so I'll get to the juggling point now. What you could say is that we've started with something that looks a bit like this, right? You've got this culture happening over here on the right side. Your left side would be, say, something like Europe. And then on the left side, or your right side, you've got something like the Native Americans. And I think that what sort of happens is that as you start allowing immigration, those cultures start to mix. And then you get this sort of mix. And you can say, well, maybe it's more of a pattern like this. And then the mix starts happening and you start getting things that are created. And I think what I'm getting at is that mixing of cultures and allowing people to blend together really gets to the core of what being human is and the core of what Thanksgiving is. We're all one people. This idea of race is a weird one. We're a species. There's differences in our species. Most of them happen to be cultural. The only thing that blocks those cultures from mixing and melding together is our refusal to accept that just because somebody's a little different from us means that we can't communicate with them, we can't interact with them. And I think on this Thanksgiving, I encourage you to think about people that are scary to you, people that are different from you, and to start remembering that we're all just a species. We're all humans. And that any differences between us are much more cultural than they are physical. And we zone in on physical differences between other people, skin color, size, whatever it is of the day. And we don't recognize that different cultures are simply scary to us. And I think on Thanksgiving, it's a time for us to recognize that new cultures shouldn't be scary. We should allow people to come and bring what they can to the table. Each culture has their strengths, their weaknesses, and the long-term plan for us should be to recognize that as humans, we're a single species, and let's go to the stars. Maybe we'll find aliens and stuff, and then we can get mad at them or something and work through that. So I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving. I hope you'll actually think about this idea and maybe consider writing to senators, to your state representatives, and talking to them about what it means to have immigrants here, what it means to have refugees here, because I think it's a really good thing for everybody. And I think as Americans, if we can justify dropping bombs, we better be able to justify allowing people to come and join us here in what we consider to be the best place in the world, the ideal. If it's the ideal, let's bring people here and let them experience what we think of as the ideal. Maybe we're not there yet, and maybe they can bring something to our culture. So again, happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you again next week.